everybody, and welcome to the November edition of Wellness Hacks. This month we'll be talking about something called mental bandwidth. And basically what this is it's very similar to your internet bandwidth. It's how much processing power your brain has. And I think this is very important, and we'll explain a little bit more, but especially with COVID, basically all of us have less mental bandwidth than we usually do going into the holidays, and the holidays already take up a bunch of mental bandwidth. So that's why this is important, and you'll get it at the end. By the end of this, you'll hopefully understand, but I'm also going to give you some tips to help you deal with it. So hopefully this is very helpful for you guys, and let's get started. So first off, you guys are probably wondering, what the heck is mental bandwidth? Basically, mental bandwidth is very similar to like your internet bandwidth. It's how much processing power your brain has as far as information and decision making. So it's something very, very important. Two of the examples that I've seen of like a way to like illustrate mental bandwidth to make it easier to understand is like a battery with a bunch of like lines for the level of power it has, and then like spoons. So like the battery, each thing you're thinking about takes off one of those lines. So that makes it so that the rest of your battery doesn't have as much power in it. So if you're stressed out about COVID, that takes off some lines. And if you're stressed out about having to travel to go see your family, that takes off some more lines. If you're worried about money, more lines. And then whatever you have left over is your general ability to think and make decisions and things like that. So you can see how like during the holidays, especially this year, your ability to think and make decisions and control your emotions is going to be really impacted. So that's why we want to cover this year. Just so you guys know, the spoon one is pretty much the same as the batteries. Each of your spoons is one task or one thing you're thinking about. So the more things you're thinking about, the less spoons you end up with. So basically that's it. That's the best way I can explain it. So hopefully it makes sense. If it doesn't, comment or email us and we will try again. So what I thought first of when I learned about this is, okay, so how do I optimize my mental bandwidth? How do I make it go as far as it can? And some of the things that I've had work for me include journaling and note-taking. And if you have anxiety or you suffer with anything like that, you'll know that helping by putting it on paper or even just typing it out and like putting it somewhere outside of your brain, it really helps relieve the stress of having to remember it, because it is written down somewhere outside of your brain where your brain can't mess it up, basically. That's how I feel, at least. So basically journaling helps me because not only are you kind of venting your emotions and putting them down on paper, but if it's something I'm worried about, then it's something that's now on paper. So even if I forget it and it's something really super important, if I forget it, it's still on paper, which is why things like journaling and notes and also to-do lists are very, very helpful. What I do as soon as I wake up and as soon as I get to work is I write down a list of all the tasks I need to get done that day or that I need to be doing throughout the days, and then I cross them out as I do them. It's very important to acknowledge each of your successes, even if they're little. They can be very little, but it's very important to still acknowledge them because it is a success. If it's something little or something I didn't plan on getting done, I tend to add it to my list just so I can cross it off again, because it's a little success and it's something that I can see on my list. It's crossed off. I did something. And it's very important at the end of the day that you acknowledge those successes. So what I'll also do with my to-do list is I'll use little stars to mark down what I need to start with so that I can show which ones are most important, which ones are most urgent. And that helps you kind of prioritize what you need to get done. So self-care is also really, really important when it comes to monitoring your mental bandwidth. Things like eating healthy food gives your brain the fuel it needs to be able to think in the best way it can, and also helps control your emotions and things like that. Sleep is very, very important. You need enough sleep to let your brain heal. It literally needs that time to heal and be able to not only heal, but also to be able to process what you've gone through during the day. When you're dreaming and things like that, it's your brain kind of processing all of the thoughts it's had, even like, the intrusive thoughts or the random errant thoughts, but it needs that time to be able to process everything, store things properly and things like that. So it's very important to get enough sleep. They've also found that walking even 20 to 30 minutes a day really helps with controlling stress hormones, and also helps with things like you can meditate while you're doing it, so you can kind of use it as a time to kind of chill. Think Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello with their zombie walk thing that they have had going on during quarantine. I know that example might be really old by the time this is live. It's fine. So those are really good ways to kind of not only control your emotional state, but also kind of control your mental bandwidth, where you're kind of letting go of the things you don't need to be stressed about, and that in turn gives you more brain power. So a couple of more very important tips include things like allow yourself to take a break. Don't just focus solely on, like, I know it's like the end of the semester and it's really stressful and you're trying to get everything done, but let yourself have a break. That break kind of helps your brain reset, and it'll allow you actually more thinking power so that you can think and do your schoolwork more effectively after you've taken that break. So it is totally worth it in the end. Another thing to consider is allow yourself something like a haircut or a pair of shoes that you really need if you've been putting it off for a really long time because of COVID, because of school, because of stress, things like that. Just get yourself something a little something that you need, and you'll feel a whole lot better, and it helps your mental state and helps you feel better. Another thing to try out is called revitalizing habits. And this includes like having tea, having coffee, creating a ritual, listening to music. And what I mean by creating a ritual can include a bunch of different things that make you feel better, like doing yoga, playing music, listening to your music, playing it on an instrument, watching a really great movie that you really love, tea or coffee. Like I said. So basically what your goal is in creating a ritual is to have your brain kind of likes it when you're doing the same thing and it knows what to expect. So by creating a ritual, like for me, I get up in the morning, walk the dogs, we get back home, we feed them their treats, we feed the fish, then I make my coffee and we go sit out on the patio to watch the sunrise. And that's what we do every morning. The dogs know it, I know it, everybody's happy. So like creating something like that, so it's something that you can control. It's something that you can't control a lot of stuff, but this is something you can control, and it gives you something to look forward to, and you know that's not going to necessarily change. And that helps your brain and helps your emotional state, because at least you can control what you can control. So yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about are a couple of resources that I kind of liked. The first one is a couple of quotes by Ben Franklin. Supposedly, when he woke up every morning, he would ask himself one question, and when he went to bed, he would ask another question. So the first question was, what good will I do this day? And the last question was, what good did I do this day? So when waking up, it's a really good way to kind of consider, one, what you need to get done. It helps you set a goal to achieve that day. But then at the end of the day, you're acknowledging your successes and what you did. You may not have completed what you set at the beginning of the day, but you're acknowledging what you did get done and what you were able to do in that day. And it's very important to remember those things. The second resource I wanted to talk to you guys about is called Taking on Anxiety with Lilly Singh, and it's a Standard-Size video. So if you haven't seen it on YouTube, the Standard-Size videos are really good about like dealing with like issues a lot of us face. It's very relatable. And he's really good about trying to make sure that everybody kind of knows that everybody kind of faces this, or at least anybody suffering from anxiety kind of faces a lot of these same issues. This one very specifically helps deal with anxiety and like has a whole bunch of little hacks on how to deal with your anxiety and little tips. So I really recommend it. But those are two things that I think are really good for keeping everything in perspective, and also giving you a whole bunch of tools that you can use to help yourself be happier. So thank you guys for listening. This is pretty much what I had to talk to you guys about today. I hope everybody has a safe holiday season, whatever holidays you guys celebrate. Look forward to seeing you guys next year. Hopefully we'll have less emotional health that we need to consider. Hopefully COVID will have lightened up a little bit by then. Hope springeth eternal, right? But I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Bye.